So with that out of the way, let's get down to our panel. And we have 7 people. Obviously, we're in a tight time frame. So we would ask the panel to try and keep their answers to 1 or 2 minutes. And Sean's left. Okay, no problem. So we have a great mix of expertise here covering different sectors. So I thought I'd pose one question to each person, and then I might open it up to the floor. And I'd like to put my first question to Professor James Horan. I've noticed the colleges in Ireland, in particular DIT, have really taken BIM on board, while on the contrary, the industry in general has seemed slow to adopt. And presumably as an educator, you're trying to make sure that your students are equipped in this subject. And the first part of my question is it because you foresee BIM as a necessary skill in the immediate future, or is it simply because you feel your students will need this when they go to work in other markets? And my second part is, why do you feel there's such a startling disconnect between the level of interest shown in academia compared to professional practice? Maybe you could comment on that.
Well, it's a complicated question, but first of all, I'll say that in the present climate, it may be a distinct advantage to graduates to have BIM training at college level, because I think many of our graduates for the moment will not be getting employment in Ireland. But that's not the reason that we do it. As educators, we believe that it's important to provide graduates with the necessary education that ultimately makes them sustainable, so that they are able to continue their educational process without the support of the school that started it. And therefore, this type of training will allow our graduates to benefit irrespective of where they are, and hopefully they will influence what will ultimately happen in Ireland. The second part of your question, which was deals with a little bit the disconnect between educators and the profession. This is an endemic problem, not just in Ireland, but right across the European Union. I can't speak quite as much for the United States, but in another role that I hold in Brussels, I'm very much aware of what's happening with schools of architecture and their links to the professional bodies in different member states of the EU. This link is generally weak. And remarkably, in Ireland, it's one of the strongest countries in the EU to have this seamless connection between education and practice. Nevertheless, we are still a long way from the point where the full integration of the possibilities can take place. But I think that if it starts early in the educational process, it will automatically inform what happens afterwards, and it will only be a matter of time before it's the norm as opposed to the exception.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay, I might go on to Professor Tim Royd. As a researcher, I mean, to me, there seems to be a lot of convincing recorded evidence to the benefits of BIM and IPD. And you have to wonder why, if you look into it, why the industry is so slow to take hold of this, especially in a time when reduced costs and better efficiencies are so critical to what we're doing. And in your own view as a researcher, is all the news we're hearing, is it all hype, or is there real merit in what the BIM and IPD promoters are saying? And why is it that people in government and organizations that are leading the industry and making the decisions and procuring the projects are not getting this message?
Thanks, Ralph. How long have you got? It's not hype. I mean, people who have looked independently, so a number of different sets of people have looked at cost-benefit analyses of working in BIM, and they find quite consistently at least a 10% reduction in capital cost. And just to give 2 examples, One Island East in Hong Kong, $500 million project, $5 million spent on BIM modelling, save 50 million. I mean, that's the rough figures. Terminal 5T5 at Heathrow, getting on £4.5 billion pound project. There is evidence, I use the word perhaps advisedly, that the use of single model environments, I mean, they wouldn't say they use BIM, single model environments saved about 423, I think the figure was, £1 million. Huge amount. But to get that, BAA themselves spent well over £10 million in training. Right, so they put their own money in, knowing that that would be the only way of doing it. Why hasn't it taken off? Well, it's disruption in a fragmented industry. People don't like change anyway. There aren't an easy set of leaders in our industry. I think it's been technology driven rather than being business driven, and as such, generally introducing any new technology needs process change and culture change to allow the benefits to flower. I think not enough work has been done to date on the cost-benefit analysis of each stakeholder in a project. You know, if we are going towards a future where, as Paul Morell says, as Ben reported, where contractors start to work more as, I think Morell's term is integrators, then, you know, what is in it for architects, what is in it for engineers, etc. Because, so we heard about turkeys a bit earlier. Well, if we see Christmas coming, then we're going to fight. We're going to fight against it. And I think that the training has been too much to date on operators, CAD operators, if you like, and too little on directors, managers, marketing people, etc. You know, you can only work a job in BIM when you've won the job, and overselling is as bad as underselling. Know when to offer, when to stand back, etc. We're not nearly there yet. I could go on, but I won't.
No problem. I might address the three now professional designers who are in practice. So Robert and Bernard and James, and maybe each of you could just briefly comment. You know, what you believe the main drivers to the general adoption of BIM in our particular market. In our particular situation. At the moment, everybody seems very focused on the cost as a major obstacle, and it doesn't seem to be considering the productivity and quality benefits. And it doesn't motivate people. It doesn't seem to be motivating people to get into it. Is there a lack of understanding, do you think, amongst company decision makers? Do we have to wait until the market forces us to change? Or do you see companies like your own who have seen the light driving the change in the market?
Okay, I suppose the first comment I'd like to make is it doesn't really surprise me that our figures are so low in Ireland, because if you think historically, when we were very busy, we were probably too busy to implement change. Now that we're quiet, we really don't have enough projects to implement change. But I think the drivers, as I see it, will come from academia, and the students that we will be bringing in will be drivers within companies. You know, most directors, I would think, will listen to their staff. If staff are promoting what they've been taught in colleges, that will eventually filter out into the industry. I think the second driver will be, if one company is providing a client a BIM service for the same fee that another company is not, then clients are certainly going to be gaining their knowledge and knowing what they're looking for. They're going to be looking for BIM once it's out there, and certainly organisations like CITA are making clients aware, and even people here today, we may even have clients here today, they're going to go away with a message from here. Like, I think, the basic BIM, for us, we can't go to clients and say, we can give you a 2D service for X, but we can give you BIM for 3 times the fee. We're not going to get 3 times the fee. We have to give BIM at the fee. So if we're providing BIM at the fee, the client is going to want it from everyone. So that will grow, I think, organically. But I think the biggest stunter at the moment is our industry. We'd all love to have lots of projects. As I say, I think we were too busy. Now we're gone a little bit too quiet. But I think once the industry comes along, I think you will see lots of new students will be coming into the industry. The colleges will be producing them. And you will see an organic growth, I believe, in BIM in the industry in general. I think it's encouraging to hear that the UK, that contracts may well specify that you need BIM. And I believe some of the government contracts, even recently in Ireland, have specified BIM. So I think it will grow organically, but I don't think we should expect it to grow overnight. It won't. I mean, even CITA is only 10 years in existence. To me, that's not a long time. This is a fairly dramatic change for the industry. And I think it will grow, but we just need to be patient. So that's my view.
What about the architects? Robert?
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest impediment going forward is examples of what was spoken about earlier, that it's not really about technology. And I mean, I think that's where people have misunderstood from the beginning. And there's a tendency to be obsessed with what program you're using and what computers you're using. And really, that's completely irrelevant until you sit down and work out how you're going to structure your company or your practice and your workflow. And then you can go out in the market and you can look at what's there and choose the elements that you require at that particular date and time. And you consider everything, including the cost. You need to have an overall knowledge of what BIM is about before you can make those decisions. Whereas what's tended to happen, and I've seen it over many years, is that either people will resist the change and they'll just stick with whatever package they have in terms of software or hardware, or someone will decide, look, we need to go with this now, let's do it. They'll get a load of packages in, spend a lot of money, and then there's a kind of a resistance there to get using it in projects. Oh, well, we'll start next month on this project, or you need to sit down, decide how you want to take your company forward, how you want to take your practice forward, and then select the packages or the equipment and everything else, the workflow, and then implement it. So, like, obviously you're going to have, say, projects that are ongoing, so you won't introduce it within those, but you set a date, you say from this date, each new project, and I think actually big or small, if you take it on, and people will learn a new package quite quickly if they're doing work. I find it, we've had quite a turnover of people the last few years, and really with our packages, they're up and running and they're doing quite good work within a couple of weeks. But it's all down to how you explain what you want to do to them as well, that it's not about file, edit, menu, this menu, that menu. Most people now, and coming from university, will be articulate in using programs. So the thing is, they'll pick that up quickly. The thing is the workflow. So that's the real impediment. And I'd say for a smaller practice than that, like CITA is a very good organisation to kind of get over that, or to gain the knowledge of how you make the right decisions and move forward with BIM. So I suppose that's really.
You want to add anything to that, Bernard? No? You happy? Okay. Very good. So, well, I might just ask Benedict. You eloquently explained how you might implement BIM, sort of at the company level, and what are the key things to consider. But if we could take it a step higher, as an industry, we really need, I believe we need something like this. And if you were advising an entity like the construction industry of Ireland as an entity, to how to best get onto the road to BIM implementation, sort of at that higher level. What are the key pillars that you believe we need to get in place in Ireland to ensure that we successfully do this?
It's very complex.
Yeah.
It's a very complex question, but I think the key thing is collaboration, and I don't mean we're just working together, because you all do that now. I mean really going and talking to each other about the synergies.